data collection privacy. Next slide. People these days post a lot of information online. Everyone is aware that everyone is aware of that, of course, but just how much do we post? If we take a look at this graph in here, you can see these numbers are huge. People are just sharing a lot of information online every single day, every single minute. So most people who take advantage of the services of the companies like Google and Facebook are aware that these companies store and use personal data. But do we know what happens to that data? As of today, and as the guys before us, in presentation before us mentioned that we don't know enough about what large private corporations are doing with the data that they're accumulating. There are a few options. Among them, the data being used to make money by using users' private data to create personalized ads, and that this data is just simply used to improve companies' services. But there is also option that it's being sold to third parties and it's being used as surveillance. So is it possible to delete this data? Theoretically, it's possible, but it's really, really hard because users does not have full control over the process. When user clicks on delete button on the site, they don't actually delete the data. They only remove the data from the online site. Most apps, databases, and even hard drives only mark data as deleted instead of deleting it. In fact, the data stays on the site database until someone deletes it manually. And in order to do that, company itself has to manually delete the data. But what are the chances that we can contact every company and get them to manually delete what information they have there? Even more, it's not really in business of many companies to do that because most of them are making money by using private data to create personalized ads. So most people spend more time thinking about which picture they would like to put on Facebook instead of reading the terms of service documents. But no matter how long or confusing these data policies might be, it is a legally binding contract between the user and the company. So for example, in Twitter's privacy policy agreement, it says that Twitter has the rights to send users' data to any partner organization at once for almost any reasons. Even more, they also have the right to alter and distribute any text, video, or picture users post on their servers. On the other hand, there's Dropbox, the cloud service. They claim that they take small liberties with the user data to simplify users' life and further develop their services. They only share content and data with handful of third-party companies, but nobody can actually try and check that. This is what they just claim. So if we think about what this theme, we don't know enough about what happens to our data, what does it mean to us, like for me, Justin, for our group? So there's a couple factors in here. As a users, we are using internet services on a daily basis. And this is always a concern regarding the data that we seem voluntarily just provide to the internet. On the other hand, as someone who, so we are in BIT program, right? So we are interested in working in IT field. So we understand that without this data, we wouldn't have an option to create all these convenient app services. So this theme makes us think and consider about what we can do as developers to keep the balance between improving the applications for the users and between using the data that they provide, not more, just enough, and that it won't be intruding into their privacy. Next slide, please. So there are some keywords and phrases that we will use. As a theme, we chose the theme, we don't know what happens to our data, but as a case study, we just chose the facial recognition. So there's a few keywords and phrases that we'll use with this. So facial recognition is a way of recognizing a human face through technology. Facial recognition system uses biometrics to map facial features from a photograph or video. It compares the information with a database of known faces to find a match. Facial recognition can help verify a person's identity, but it also raises privacy issues. Biometrics are body measurements and calculation related to human characteristics. Biometric authentication is used in computer science as a form of identification access control. Face prints, a digital scan or photograph of human face used for identifying individuals from the unique characteristics of facial structure. And a facial signature. Facial signature is a mathematical formula which is compared the data sets in a databases or faces. The software compares the data and it identifies the person. We have cookies, which are HTTP cookies or internet cookies. They are built specifically for internet web browsers to track, personalize, and save information about each user's session. And the last one is data augmentation. It's a technique used to increase the amount of data by adding slightly modified copies of already existing data or newly created or synthetic data from existing. It is used for machine learning. So let's take a look at one of the examples for our theme with focus on facial recognition, which is Facebook. Facebook is a really good example of this collaboration of two themes. So every day, Facebook users upload hundreds of millions of photos to the social network. If they haven't opted out, the software scans these photos and in search of faces it recognizes. The company's research suggests that Facebook holds the largest facial data set to date, powered by DeepFace. What is DeepFace? DeepFace is a deep learning facial recognition system created by a research group at Facebook. It identifies human faces in digital images. The program employs a 9-layer neural network with over 120 million connection weights, and it was trained on 4 million images uploaded by Facebook users. So Facebook has all the data we upload. It has pictures from different stages of our lives, from various angles, with different clothes and haircuts. And we just upload this data every day. So right now, tagging a user is the only application of the software, as they claim. So no one is worrying about it too much, not the way that people worry about the uses of facial recognition, like immigration and customs enforcement and scanning of the millions of driver's license photos. Facial recognition is already being used in commercial settings like sports and in retail to be able to identify shoplifters. But so far, Facebook hasn't offered any uses beyond tagging for its software. One reason might be because the company is currently bound by the agreement with the Federal Trade Commission, and it says that it has to first obtain the express consent from users before going beyond user-specified privacy settings. But that agreement only lasts for another 12 years. So by the time that it expires, we may be using the facial recognition to do things like pay for the purchases in stores or board flights or open the doors like we open the phones right now. So Facebook says that it doesn't sell users' data, and maybe it's true they don't have the store for that people can buy the data that they gather, but Facebook sells the ability for advertisers to reach a very specific subset of people based on the data Facebook has. And Facebook seeks to expand beyond its social networks. So company could market its facial recognition services to different businesses like credit card processor or anything like verify customers with identification with quick photo. So one major problem with this is that Facebook, because it's Facebook, there is a history of broken promises to users about how it handles their data and possibly even the law. So Facebook allows users to connect in different ways, and it changed. And it was big influence on the society, but it is actually an ad company. So there is a good reason to worry if Facebook ever decides to make additional use of its massive database of name-to-face data, and it will do so in a way that it could disrespect users' rights. And actually, there was recently Facebook was ordered to, by law, to pay $650 million to residents of Illinois. The law, the Biometric Information Privacy Act, is a powerful state measure designed to protect residents from invasive privacy practices, and it tripped up a lot of tech companies recently. The suit against Facebook was filed in 2015, stating that Facebook practices of tagging people in photos using facial recognition without their consent violated the state law. So in addition to money that Facebook had to pay out, the company disabled the automatic facial recognition tagging features in 2019, and making it as an opt-in instant feature that if you want it, you can enable it, but if not, it will be there and it will be used. So, to Justin.
Okay. So, most retailers want to know about customers' purchasing patterns. Any link that you click, company website that you go to, and all your purchases, these are the type of patterns that are being recorded and being correlated to you, the consumer. 100% of companies can request and store your email address using it to stay in touch for future marketing. Pretty much all companies will request this information from you, and the majority of these emails probably won't even be used. I mean, at least for me, I never really open them and read them, because like 99% of them are just junk mail. But who's collecting your data? In general, any company would want to know what your patterns are, as per examples we talked about. Whether they're big or small, know what your consumers want can be considered a vital piece to running a business in 2021. So social media, I think we all know that social media is kind of collecting our data, name, email, birthday. For purchasing products on these applications, you have to use your banking information. Thus, these sites can store your banking information. This is a combination of like a knowledge for a hacker can be like kind of scary to think about. It's enough to withdraw funds, make payments, and get new credit card information just from your name. So companies, these are some of the top companies collecting your voice, face, and environment, similar to what Richard was talking about earlier. Terms of facial recognition, the top 5 listed here collect your data on your face. So Facebook just recently announced their new name, Meta. Instagram, Tinder, and Uber are amongst the top here. Social media collects the most of our data out of all the key players in the field. Unsurprisingly, Facebook is at the top. Ads is where Facebook receives a majority of its revenue, 16.6 billion as of 2018. For what's considered illegal, they collect 80% of that, and Instagram is a close second, and it's owned by Facebook. So yeah. When it comes to Google Suite, a majority of these apps would most likely be on your smartphone. Me, myself, am an avid user of Google Maps. So whenever I travel, they collect image recognition of your environment, and most obvious one is your location. YouTube is another one. It's more towards hobbies and interests from viewing history. These other apps mainly collect your data, email, and language you speak it. So in regards to a specific application, I chose Tinder to talk about. Probably a rare time that I can actually talk about Tinder and school in one presentation. So we all know that Tinder is used to find a date in this weird time, 2021 things. Other than matching with your perfect partner, it also tracks how you use different social media and how you interact with other users. Any linked account is tracked towards other social media platforms. So before I want to get a bit on how the data collection is going to be rented in the future, I wanted to talk about cookies. So not this type of cookie, but cookies. A majority of our data is collected via cookies. If you don't know what a cookie is something that is created by a server upon your connection to a website. So this data is labeled with an ID connected to you. They stick around as you traverse the web, used to track user across multiple sites to target ads and see how they perform. So a couple of prevention tactics I want to talk about here are I read an article about how Google won't use new ways to tracking you. It's phasing out browser cookies for ads. As of 2022, there won't be any way to track users around the internet. The support of cookies will end in Chrome specifically by early 2022. There's been a talk with ad tech companies on a replacement for third-party cookies with alternatives, but those alternatives are ongoing and can be composed of consumer privacy while maintain personalization and advertising, since they can't use cookies anymore. Another one is Google created something called the Privacy Sandbox. It's a solution that will protect users' privacy and let content remain freely available on the open web. The beginning of this year, they plan to test the replacement of cookies and work with advertisers in Google Ads. Third parties won't be specifically restricted. So things like Unified ID 2.0 and LiveRlamp ATS won't be used in ad products. Unified ID is a top ad tech firm. They rely on email address and are encrypted and hashed to consumers who give consent. LiveRamp has an authorized traffic solution, gets consumers to opt in to gain control of their data. Where on the other side of brands, we'll be using like that data specifically. A majority of their products will be powered by privacy-preserving APIs that prevent individuals from tracking while also delivering results for advertisers. It's a huge step for privacy. So the strongest state facial recognition ban yet I want to talk about. The state of Maine now has laws regulating the government use of facial recognition in the country. So it prohibits the government to use facial recognition, removing the loopholes that the police use or have been using to run back channel searches. Maine's new law also gives citizens the ability to sue the state if they feel like they've been unlawfully targeted by facial recognition. Any facial recognition searches used must be deleted and can't be used for evidence. So in conclusion, in the future, more policymakers need to formalize rules that protect user privacy without burying them into an endless stream of opt-in screens. And yeah, the world is changing to protect our privacy via technology. And this is our bibliography. Do you guys have any questions?